we start the next conversation, we have the next in line. We have another 2 or 3 to go, and then 2 or 3 to go, and then we go, basically. May I ask to get your attention, please? And then we keep the tour after. Again. No, baby, because I've got two mobile phones here. Sorry. 1. 2. We have to stand back, apparently. Yeah. Yes. So we start. Maybe I start by simply indicating that the format, of course, as usual, I'm changing a little bit the format of this conversation. I'm profiting from the fact that I've got here several representatives of the private sector mechanism plus a private sector entrepreneur from India. By the way, I didn't know that there was a difference between private sector in terms of farmers and farmers not being private sectors. Okay, but let's not focus on your institutional appurtenance, but actually what you're doing. May I ask your attention, just because I'm getting too old? May I ask your attention, please, just because I'm getting too old, and then we continue with the journey of the conversation. So, I would like to start with basically going around, just, we're talking about a manifesto. Today, we endorse policy recommendations, but I would like to go back to the manifestos and basically using the titles of each paragraph of the manifesto and then challenge you a little bit into a discussion. The idea is simply to try to still motivate our brain cells towards the end of the day in a way that we come with something lively a bit. And please, when you feel like intervening, don't wait for me to give you the floor, you just take it, okay? So if you go there, if you look there, if you read there, there is a title that says Diversity of Food Systems. So the first challenge, you are farmers running specialized, if you want, activities. If I would say that you are not contributing to the diversity of food system, but actually you are reducing the diversity of food systems, how would you respond to this challenge, to this sentence? Anyone that has a first idea? If we're talking about the first paragraph that says about diversity of food system diversity, right? And intuitively, or maybe counterintuitively, when I hear someone that says, I'm running a farm that is specialized on specific activities, I tend to think that this farm is not contributing to diversified food systems. Is it true? Is it like this, or is it just a story, or is it just an imagination of some people, maybe from urban areas? Would you like to start? Yeah,
please. Hello, everyone. I'm Ana Carolina Zimmerman, a Brazilian farmer raising beef cattle right in the middle of Brazil. Myself, I'm pretty new at this business as well, so I also have my questioning. But in fact, we cannot talk about efficiency, right? So when you are really good at doing one activity, you are also very efficient in terms to having the proper food. In that said, you can also change and diversify your business as in any other business in general. So that's also helpful for families that should increase their incomes as well, because that's also a different source for the family. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're specialized in one activity, it doesn't mean you're not contributing, because other people could be specialized in different activities and also be diverse and still have the same impact. But it doesn't mean you cannot also diversify inside your farm.
So you're telling me that there are different ways to see the thing. So first is that you are not living alone in a vacuum, right? You are living with other actors of the chain that actually maybe, for instance, add value or differentiate the products. We had a certain moment we discussed about a valley in Switzerland, Valposchiavo, that they produce some buckwheat. And in the past, we thought that buckwheat is just to prepare pizzoccheri, maybe one dish. And now they are producing 190 different kind of products from the same product. This is your message. Both with other actors add self in your own activity. How this is possible to enlarge, to diversify your activity today compared to in the same farm compared to the past, for instance?
Could you just repeat?
Yes, I know I'm too terrible with my question. You know, in the past, sorry, I was at a certain moment part of the commission to get on board new diplomats. And I remember there was in an interview, a certain moment, the head of the unit said, okay, if the young one was capable to understand the question of peon and also give an answer, it must be good for diplomacy. So don't worry, it's me that I'm difficult with my question. So diversification, right? We went through a time in which we were going opposite direction. The only way to stay into business was to reduce diversification. And now we have the feeling that something is changing. The diversification is part of your daily work. It's not just producing a specific item, but something else. How this is possible? Is it like this, and how is it possible?
I suppose, I'm David Dolan is my name. I'm a dairy farmer from Ireland. Probably the extremes in both directions are probably where the problem lies. If we specialised, we say if the whole of Ireland specialised too much in one direction, you have biodiversity loss, and everybody, then your food system is far too leaning in one direction. Equally, now there's probably people making a lot of money in that, but equally, if we diversify and shrink all of our businesses down to a micro level, then you come up with the problem. You come up against the problem of, livelihoods being able to be made on maybe small holdings of very diverse systems. So I think somewhere there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle, which we probably constantly go back and over between.
So, okay, you're part of a cooperative. If it's dairy cooperative, this means it's at least two levels cooperative, right? Because it's a cooperative of the producers, right? And then you have the cooperative of the one that are transforming the product. Is it like this?
The dairy processors transform the product, but it's often sold on as ingredients for other processes.
Okay. What about you? What is your activities and going on this?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Hello everybody. I'm Yolène Pagès. I'm from France. I'm involved in the dairy sheep industry in France, and I can give my testimony from my countryside. I think there is 2 points I would like to set. The first is even if the farm are specialized, if on the same territories, in the same area, the different farms have different production, from a territorial approach, it means that there is a diversification in the same area. So I think it's a way to also it's my point of view from the diversity in the system. And so then in my area, the main production is dairy sheep. And even if the farms are mostly specialized, there are mixed farms, so that means that we produce cereal and barley and the food we need to the animals on the farm. And then we sell the milk from the sheep, and we also sell the lamb that born on the farms every year. So we are quite diversified because we don't sell only the milk but also the lambs, which is a subsequent, it's a part of the income of the farmer. And then I would like also to give the example of my sister. She is also a farmer, and they have an organic dairy sheep farm. And my brother-in-law also use a part of the barley of the farm to make farm beer. He crafts the beer on the farm. And my sister runs a restaurant with local product on the farm, and it's amazing, and it's amazing also to see the people coming at the restaurant, and they are very happy to have discussion and conversation with the farmers. For most of them, it's no price on that. It's unique and with a huge authenticity. But also, as it the person who runs the restaurant, I know her because she's my sister. I know that's a lot of work to be done, and when you are on diversified farm, you need a lot of workers on the farm. I mean, farmers or employees or partners. So yes, you have to take in account that the diversified farm needs a lot of people involved in farming.
Okay, basically, if I understood correctly, what you're saying is that in your specific case, the fact that you are basically, I would say, through the let's say the families, or kind of enlarged families activities, you are responding to a problem that is quite often related in when you're having a very diversified production that needs to fill in certain niche, right, in a certain way. And on the other hand, you're also saying basically that you need to go along with diversification, responding to because at the end the point is the changing of the consumption pattern and the demand that is getting more and more specific and complex. So what you're saying is basically in order to respond in this way, so you need to make enough of a business among the restaurants, the agroecological, the other production and so on, in a way that you can feed everyone that is working in this business.
A different production, you need to invest in different machinery, and so that's a lot of investment. Okay, that's a point. But also a lot of people are needed just to work on these different activities.
Sorry, another point on the difference between, say, being fairly specialized and being very diversified is if you're specialized in one system, you just have to be an expert on one system. And at the scale we're working at, well, definitely on my farm, it's 1 or 2 employees. So we only have to be experts in one system. If the more we diversify, the more things we have to be very knowledgeable on, and you run the risk of losing efficiencies.
Is this related? Thank you. Is this also related to the fact there are investments that are there that are fixed? People have the tendency to say quite often farmers are not progressive. They don't want to change. But is it really like this? So there are patterns, there are consumption patterns that are also changing, but there are investments that are at stake, right? So how to cope, and what kind of support you as a farmer and in an institution you are getting in order to foresee the changes for the future?
That's a great question. Thank you. Actually, about investment in general, farmers not wanting to change, that's absolutely not true. I'm a farmer for a year and a half now, and since we are there, we are already changing everything. We are recovering the pasture that was degraded before, we are building new houses, we're taking care of the employees, we are looking for people, bringing education, health. It's not just about the food itself, but it's about the whole environment and everything that's affecting. On the other hand, this all comes to a cost. And when we are talking about environmental issues, some stuff you can actually do with small things, right? You don't have much investment. But on the long run, you cannot change everything by yourself. And one question that I make myself a lot is the farmer the only actor who's actually paying for the environmental issues, or should we transform it to the whole chain or maybe society? Because if we're talking about environmental issues, not everybody can afford in the long run and be sustainable, because the farm is a business, and that's not a bad thing. Talking about profit is not a bad thing, because people need to live, and the way that they can live is through money to have a better life. So how can we make this livable for everybody in the chain?
What you're saying is very important because it's at the core of some of the discussion and some of it, also the negotiations actually we had in trying to come up with policy recommendations that are useful for everyone. It's the collective responsibility of a changing of a society. So basically we are talking about if consumption is changing or is pushed to change and has to take the responsibility as well about the sustainability, the CO2 emissions, and so on and so on. So it's not only one actor that has to be taken into on the spot and responsibility, but actually it's the whole of a society that is changing. This is the big message that came out also in the while having young ones, not only farmers, but from different sectors that they were gathering together and define this manifesto. If you allow me, I'm not pretending to find answers here. He's just putting some kind of questions, if you want, on the table so that we can then keep going while continuing this journey. Habitat and proximity. This is also being a big discussion, and the fact that, and it was very strong during the COVID pandemic, that was several distribution chains got disrupted. And there was this discussion about the local capacity to produce enough for the population, for the people living there, came very strongly. Now I'm asking you directly, Himanshu, what is your take on that?
Okay, so my name is Himanshu and I'm from India, and I'm a vertical farmer. I'm a lawyer turned farmer. We do vertical farming, climate controlled farming, because in India, in New Delhi, where I am from, the temperature is on an average 40-45 degrees during summers. So, and that's when habitat and proximity is very, very related to our concept. We started during COVID, like just a couple of months before COVID hit, the first lockdown, and then it really made sense to have a food secure state. New Delhi imports a lot of food from outside Delhi. So that is when we realized that it's important to have farming or agriculture within smart cities, within urban cities, but of course it's not possible to do it logistically and economically. And it's very important to be economically viable concept for a farmer too. So that's when we realize it's important. That's a big problem. We can't be dependent on imports. We can't be dependent on farmers even outside 100 or 200 kilometers radius of a city. That's why I feel it's very important to address this challenge of habitats and proximity. We need to grow more food in urban cities. And coming back to your question, it's not about that only the consumption will be in urban areas. Of course, because of modernization developments, rural areas will become modern, will become urban cities. But of course, there will be consumption, there will be consumers outside of modern cities as well. But they are definitely sustainable. They have all means to grow food and they can survive. But it's important to increase food production and food availability in the urban areas for the future.
I think if we link this, we are thinking, vertical farms are most probably we are talking about perishable goods like salads or something like this, right? So is there possibility an alliance between actors that are farming at the urban level compared towards farmers that are in the rural area?
I think there's definitely a space for both. Like the globe has a growing population. We need to come up with innovative ways of producing extra food, and the land can only produce as much as it can produce. There's definitely room in the world for both.
Yeah, this is something I came to know that in Switzerland, for instance, in all the land available for agriculture or other activities, actually for real, let's say, apart from pastures, but from agriculture, the quantity of land is quite little. It would be almost impossible to increase just by our own local production, what people call now the food sovereignty or local production of food. Maybe go to the next. Oh yes, go ahead.
I do have a saying about that. Of course, there's a limitation, and I agree with my colleague that it has space for everybody. But actually, with technology, we can make it better use of the soil that we still have. So, for example, if you take Brazil's example, the curve of opening areas of land use is this way. And the curve of productivity is this way. So this means that we are not using the same, in the same pace, the land use, as we are producing more, because we're doing with a very, very technological way. So if we do use those approaches for areas that are degraded somehow, or areas who are not very well, even in Brazil, there's lots of space to make it even better with education, with access, with capital, with better technologies. So there's still room to grow, and there, of course, because we have a huge challenge, a room also for peri-urban areas and also vertical farming. But there's still lots of work to do.
Thank you. You want to say something?
No, I agree to what you said.
But speaking about digitalization, technology, digitalization, and so on. Now we spoke about the usefulness very rapidly from the production side. So from the organizing the consumption side, how useful could be digitalization and connectedness? I don't know if it's in English. Connectedness. So being connected, basically, one to each other. Useful for kind of a business of your enlarged family.
I'm involved on a collective project linking 6 different farms which are producing sheep milk, and we launched. It's not a co-op, but we run this company as a co-op. We are 11 partners, and we are 30 in an area where the different farms are around 30 minutes from each other. So if we cannot meet everybody every day, but thanks to the use of digital tools, we connect each other. So basically, we work with a Google Drive, we work with a WhatsApp group, and it's to share information, and also with we have 5 employees in the company, so it's also to give them to provide them the information in order they know where to collect the milk this day and this day. So so basically to work we need a good internet connection, and if we didn't have these different tools, probably our company wouldn't have been created. So yes.
Thank you. That's quite interesting. So, is it imaginable? Can we imagine in the future that because I don't, for instance, in my village, it's too small to be, for instance, for a grocery, so a shop that is selling vegetables and fruits and so on, from the organic farming production, not enough of a demand to keep the shop open all the day. And basically, each tentative went bankrupt, one after the other. And then the last one is functioning, apparently, at least it's still open after a few years that is working, because the person actually is not opening the place all the time. That's having another activity, another business. Actually, I think is teaching this person, but actually is organizing online the purchase and the link between the demand and the offer, basically, in a very innovative manner. Where so suddenly you don't even have, in this specific case, you didn't have the store really, because you just agree that, okay, I'm coming to take my 3 kilos or 5 kilos tomatoes for my restaurant, I'm coming this morning at 9, and then you make sure that the tomatoes from the farmers is coming exactly at this very moment in time. So this is something that you see, something that, I mean, this is a very small scale. Do you see this going to happen in a large scale in the future?
Definitely, it's already happening. And just from my perspective in Ireland, little milk kiosks are starting to pop up around the country, where a farmer milks the cows in the morning and pasteurizes the milk. It can be natural unpasteurized as well, but it's just basically a milk vending machine, where people come and collect their daily amount of milk and maybe eggs and whatever else can be easily produced locally. And people come and go as they like. It's something that I suppose the pandemic threw up, but definitely that's the direction of travel for the industry at the moment.
if you would consider, and then will be my last, because if not, I mean, I would just this becomes just almost a monologue in 5. I would like to open up also to you guys, if you feel like. I don't know, when do we have to stop, by the way? You have to keep me at another what? Yeah, but you have to tell me a little bit in advance. If we would have to go in this way on a larger scale, what would you need from the regulatory authorities?
We need more data with respect to production on the national scale, so that we can actually identify and connect the supplier with the demand, with the consumer, so that there is no food wastage while storing or transportation, and we can actually make available the produce when and where it is required. So there is no cold storage required, there is no wastage. So we need data from the national government.
What do you think?
Well, I just had yesterday that in some places we're still missing very basic things like internet. So I'm very privileged in Brazil, so I do have access in the cities, but in the rural areas, sometimes it's not good at all. So that it makes it hard to have this connectedness with the urban, and we have big differences. So in this global south, that's also an issue depending on the rural area. So the first thing is internet, accessible internet, and good quality internet for everybody. The second thing is infrastructure, because not everybody has access to good roads. So in Europe in general, you're very close to your consumers, but for example, I have to go 3 hours and a half to my farm from where I live, going back in the same day, and the roads sometimes are not good, but they're getting better with the infrastructure. So there's a lot of really basic things that we're not thinking about or talking about. And then, of course, data and software, investment in innovation, and then startups, but the basic is still necessary.
What would you say?
I would say policy based on very good data going forward. I don't think any farmer would ever have a problem with policy that's fully grounded in facts and figures. As, I don't know, maybe ideology gets into things at times, but I don't think any farmer would be opposed to change once they completely understand that the change is based in facts and figures.
Thank you. You?
So I do agree about the fact that we need good data, we need internet connection and roads and infrastructures, and
take your time. Maybe I can do my one while you think about yours and I think my wish, okay? So that it will come back. Yeah, it will come. Don't worry. From my side, it's my wish would be to see many more municipalities developing food policies that actually take into consideration the big changes that we're having in both in the way municipalities are organized, in the way they are connected with actually the food chains. In order to avoid food deserts and in order to simplify this possibility to make the link with, once, of course, the infrastructure, internet is working. By the way, I'm so surprised that there are countries where they're so much advanced compared to Switzerland or even Italy in like Cape Verde in relation to internet. Okay, I think we will have to stop here if I'm correct. I'm not allowed to open up to any questions, not at all. So, since I'm not allowed, I'm afraid, but maybe ask the questions to the direct actors that are here of the different in the different stalls. So please take a little bit of time and have some interaction with them while waiting for the next. Conversation. It was just a conversation or beginning of a conversation that we will continue while implementing the policy recommendations in reality. Then we keep going with the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.